President Yoon Seok Yeol and the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak signed the Downing Street Accord last week, elevating bilateral relations to a global strategic partnership. The agreement raises security and economic ties between the two nations to the highest level. They vowed to jointly confront North Korea's nuclear threat, strengthen supply chains, and safeguard a sustainable future, just to give you the framework. Now, what does the upgraded status imply? We review with an expert, with Dr. Byung-joo joining us on the line. Good morning, Dr. Kim.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Just viewing from the images from afar, it appeared to be a pretty elaborate affair. They were greeted as guests of King Charles III, the President, and the First Lady, hosted at Buckingham Palace. There was also the military honor guard. So first off, how should we characterize President Yoon's state visit to the UK this past week?
I guess one of the best ways to reply to that question would be to remind the top priorities for Korea's top priority partners for Korea's foreign policy. And in saying so, of course, we know the United States tops the list as the country that defends this part of the Korean Peninsula. U.S. is the top priority for U.S. For Korean foreign policy. That's followed by the other of the others of the so-called four-power diplomacy: United States, Japan, China, and Russia. So those four powers are considered to be the most important counterpart in terms of Korea's diplomacy. And that's followed by perhaps the EU as the fifth one. And over the years, together, in addition to those four powers around Korean Peninsula and EU, Australia came along as one of the most important, overseas partner. And now the UK comes after that in terms of sequence we're talking about. So United Kingdom is very important partner for Korea, following the four powers, EU and Australia here. And this time the state visit signified that importance. And what we got this time is so-called Downing Street Accord. And this was one of the most comprehensive international summit agreement that we've seen in years. And so when Australia came along in the same line, we noted that it's a very interesting thing that Australia is being added one of the most important allies in the list, together with the four powers plus EU, and now UK is following that suit, as I said. And with this Downing Street Accord, there's a very comprehensive set of topic areas and issue areas that these two countries, Korea and the UK, will be working together. So this is very important, major progress and development for the Korean government, if you will.
So the Downing Street Accord implies deepening collaboration in a pretty wide range of areas, including defense, security, science, technology, just to name a few areas of mutual interest. Can we go over the details on first the national security cooperation side?
Yes, the national security side of the cooperation, it's very comprehensive indeed. And what we see here is in several areas. For instance, we agreed on having the foreign minister and defense minister 2+2 meetings, having it regularized. That's a major progress there, because I think in addition to the United States and Australia, this is the third case that we are having with the UK. And the foreign minister and defense minister meeting regularly means that there will be a very long list of different kind of issues that these two countries will be engaged in discussing and further developing the national security areas. In addition to the 2+2 meeting being regularized, there is a cyber side cooperation. Cyber partnership, what they call, is very important, because in this part of the region, we are talking about different kinds of alliances, but we notice the alliances that we are not Korea is not part of. One is AUKUS. This is trilateral alliance in with the focus on Asia Pacific area. AUKUS means Australia, UK, and the United States, and that's a kind of like a new kind of alliance. But Korea is not part of it. Another one, longer form of alliance is intelligence side, Five Eyes, as we know. Five Eyes include uh, United States, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and that's Korea. That's where Korea is not part of. In recent years, we've been hearing Japan possibly joining kind of a part of AUKUS or Five Eyes, and Korea has not been talked about as much. The thing is, when we have this kind of cyber side cooperation with UK, it's a important stepping step for bringing Korea closer to these new alliances and traditional alliances of AUKUS and Five Eyes as well. So that's very important. And then another area is the defense industry cooperation. We know in recent years, suddenly, all of a sudden, in the eyes of the public, Korea has emerged fast as one of the major powers in defense industry around the world. And now we know on this side of the world, if you will, after the United States, of course, UK has been very powerful player in defense industry, and now this defense industry cooperation between UK and the traditional player, big player, United Kingdom, and then Korea as a fast rising new player in this sector of the economy here. It means a lot in terms of what it means for the global market as Korean corporations and UK corporations in defense industry area working together. So that's another major step forward in the security area cooperation.
Let's also cover the economic cooperation side, Dr. Kim. This upgraded free trade agreement got everyone's attention, so maybe we should elaborate how big of a deal this FTA was. Does it largely replicate arrangements the UK had maybe before it left the EU?
Right, indeed. Actually, what happened was Korea-UK FTA is some kind of what do you call it? It's not a kind of mainstream. It was kind of suddenly arranged. The United Kingdom was in, I wouldn't say desperation, but in an urgent need to set up FTAs quickly as it has left the EU. And Korea is one of the countries that responded quickly to that need. That was back in 2019 that Korea-UK FTA was signed. And it's something, as I said, UK really needed big time, and Korea responded. And indeed, like it was, as I said, Korea was the first country among the Asian nations to respond to UK's needs in the form of FTA. But because it was set up quite in a speedy manner, I wouldn't say hurried manner, but speedy manner, there are a lot of things that can be further advanced and improved and refined. And so that's what the both countries will be focusing on. And over the years, ever since it was signed back in 2019 and went into effect 2021, many things have been happening. For instance, the global supply chain reshuffling is a big deal for the last about 2-3 years. And the energy side, market interruption because of Russia's move in Ukraine, and also fast rise of renewables and hydrogen. And there is plenty of, there is a long list of new issues emerging in the energy side. And of course, the digital side, bio side, there are a lot of different new issues emerging as well. So, that's what the two countries were responding to in a way, the fast changing needs of the economic cooperation between the two countries. And that's why the two countries have agreed to kind of improving the existing FTA agreement. And on the Korean industry side, the automobile makers, they are quite excited about this because Korea is already UK's the third largest source of automobile imports. So they're saying, especially on the aspects of electric vehicles and so on, through the revised FTA, probably Korean industry will benefit quite significantly. So there's a high expectation that we observe on the side of Korea, as well as on the other side.
Now, related to those economic talks, we also heard stories of UK corporations committing to invest in Korea. How big of a commitment are we talking about here, Dr. Kim?
Right. In addition to the government size talks on
Mhm.
economic cooperation, the corporate side, private sector side, there were interesting developments that we had during the time of this summit diplomacy. The government presidential office mentioned 49 different cases of MOUs signed
Mm.
between Korea and UK. Of course, that includes several between public corporations as well as private corporations and so on. But the 49 cases of MOU is not a small number. And among them, what we notice is there are different areas here, energy and AI and construction, defense industry cooperation, and so on. But what stands out seems to be in the energy sector, and particularly the renewable energy, and specifically the wind power generation. And the reports say UK corporations like BP, British Petroleum, and then Korea Generation, those two corporations have introduced or shared with the public, announced their plan, together combined 1.5 trillion won worth of
Mm.
investment in Korea, setting up overall facilities and basic foundations for the wind power generation. They're talking about Korea Corporation of the UK setting up their facilities in Busan, Ulsan, and
Mm.
Jeonnam areas,
Mm.
and that's going to come together close to 3 gigawatt
Yeah.
amount of power generation. That's pretty big in terms of, you know,
Mm.
wind farms that will be set up on the seashore, on the ocean. And the British Petroleum is talking about setting up similar facilities in the southern coast of Korea as well. So this is a new area. And as the renewables side has become politically controversial here in Korea, between the change of government, many eyes have been watching what happens, like in terms of international side of cooperation. But now we see kind of trend where renewables are coming back
Mm.
smoothly and quietly, and
Mm.
in that sense, the British corporations' contribution to renewables power generation here in Korea will be something that we should take a good notice of.
Mm. Let's also take note of President Yoon's speech at the British Parliament. It was clearly a notable event where he reminded the audience of the importance of soft power. This is where he made reference to K-pop stars, Korean contents, breaking barriers, going beyond.
Yeah, the soft power side is a very important aspect of, I guess, bilateral relationship between Korea for sure, because if we're talking about the origins of the idea of soft power, we can trace back to maybe 60s, the British invasion,
The
what they
Beatles.
called, right, in the United States. And, ever since then, in various aspects of pop culture, not only just pop music, but movies and literature and so on,
Mm.
the UK has been leading the world in terms of their own soft power.
Mm.
It has been setting kind of what do you call it, monuments or targets for other countries that are aspiring to become soft power.
Mm.
And now this time at this summit diplomacy state visit to UK, Korea was well recognized, by the King, the Charles III, and the British government and British politicians, how powerful Korea has become in terms of uh, the soft power aspect of it. And they were all this making these comparisons between British traditional soft power on one end and Korean soft power, including even sports,
Mm.
soccer players
Mhm.
even.
Mhm.
So the huge spectrum of different elements of what they call soft power, the culture, diplomacy, and so on, and British as the kind of like main examples of successful soft power over the several decades, and Korea as rising and recently extremely successful source of soft power.
Mm.
It was quite amazing. They were talking about different reference points and so on, and the world takes a note of it. Soft power is
Mm.
very important,
Mhm.
especially in the young generation. As I think about Korea, for instance, as an important country that they're interested in. And the King Charles III noted that, in fact, in the UK, Korean language has become the language that shows the fastest rise in terms of popularity and public interest, being taught in schools and so on. And so that means a lot, in fact, for in terms of where Korea stands in the mind of British people and in the minds of the European folks, as well as in the minds of the world audience. So it was quite interesting occasion of reminder to us where Korea stands in what's so-called soft power aspect of global dynamics.
Dr. Kim, I wonder if I would have less difficulty trying to define my Korean American identity if I grew up in the age of BTS.
Right.
It wasn't the same just 10 years ago to wrap things up today.
I remember 30 years ago.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
And then, I mean, you remember 10 years ago, but I remember what it was like 30 years ago in terms of Korea's stance. So I'm talking about this changes over time, right? How fast Korea has risen.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
All right, to wrap today's discussion up, what did the latest state visit remind us about then the Korea-UK ties and Korea's position and interests more largely in the global community?
Yeah, I guess we'll have to go back to the very first question we shared earlier to reply to that wrap-up question here. That is, UK comes along after the four powers and EU and Australia. And I guess I forgot to mention that the what comes along in terms of as a result of this summit diplomacy and state visit to UK is elevation of UK as its in terms of its status. It's called Global Strategic Partnership, and that is actually status that stands right below the United States. United States, in terms of the diplomatic rhetoric, United States tops the list, and then right after that comes the second rank, and that includes Australia and now UK, Global Strategic Partnership. And of course, you may wonder, what about Japan and others? Right. There have been, because of different political reasons, right? The official diplomatic rank of these countries have not been elevated as high. So Australia and UK actually comes along as a second rank in terms of diplomatic expression. And so that's a major step forward. And in seeing that, we understand the importance of UK. UK is, to begin with, a member of UNP5, United Nations Security Council, 5 permanent members. And so always important when we deal with North Korea issues and other issues as a member of P5. And as I mentioned, UK is a member of AUKUS, the trilateral security cooperation, security alliance that has recently emerged between the United States, UK, and Australia, and a member of Five Eyes, the five powers in terms of intelligence sharing, United States, UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. And so in that sense, very, very important ally for Korea. And this time, we're reminded by President Yoon, as well as King Charles III, that as many as 1,000 young British lives were lost, 70 years ago when they fought here in Korea to defend Korea's freedom. So that tells us and reminds us the important relationship between the two countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for today's insights. We'll speak to you again next week.
Thank you.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.